Juan Soto, although he's amazing and potentially a top 10 player in the history of baseball, and I think at the end of the day he will be, he's one player.
You are Locked On Yankees, your daily New York Yankees podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Yankees, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. I am one of your hosts, Stacey Godsoulias. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. With me, as usual, my co-host, Brian McKeon. Brian, hello.
Stacey, long time no talk.
Yeah, I know. Feels like it's only been a few hours since we last talked. Strange.
Literally.
Before we get started, don't forget, subscribe to Locked On Yankees on whichever podcasting platform you prefer. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, like our videos, hit the bell so you're notified when our videos go live. On today's show, the World Series shares were plentiful, so were the playoff shares overall. We're going to talk about that. The Rays have a deadline to make a decision about their new stadium, and we're talking about it because it will affect the Yankees and the rest of the AL and the NL because everyone's playing each other. So it's a whole baseball thing, and we'll talk about it. But first, it's What If Wednesday, and we're doing it a little differently this week. So instead of Brian doing one what if and me doing the other, we're doing a what if thanks to Jeff Passan, who wrote something the other day about what if the Yankees don't sign Juan Soto, because we haven't discussed that at all.
Yeah, full disclosure, I might be a little biased towards Jeff Passan. Got to know him a little bit, so I think he's a really good guy, but a really good reporter. And it's kind of weird how once he signed with ESPN and left Yahoo a few years ago, he became like the top baseball reporter like almost overnight. That like the most trusted, sourceful baseball reporter that we have. But he came out with this article, Stacey, basically going over the like top 10 teams that were the most fascinating teams going into the offseason. Who he likes the most, who doesn't like the most, who could do the most, all that kind of stuff, which fascinated me. But he went through two scenarios with the Yankees. He went through one if they get Juan Soto, highlighting that that's their top priority. And going through another where the money for Juan Soto gets allocated differently and split up a little bit, and what they do in that scenario. And let me go over both scenarios first, and then we'll go over the what if question, because I think that's a little more pertinent for you. He wants to know what happens if the Yankees don't sign Juan Soto, and here's his move of what he does. He wants them to move Jazz Chisholm to center field, move Judge back over to right, have Jason Dominguez play left. He wants to have Willie Adames be signed, which I think would be to me, the Willie Adames signing this offseason, whoever gets him, that will be the equivalent of the Teoscar Hernandez signing of the Dodgers last season, where the Dodgers got Shohei, and they signed Teoscar, and everyone was like, that guy was a free agent? Almost everyone, no one even realized that he was a free agent. And then Teoscar winds up hitting 30 homers and 100 RBIs to the Dodgers out of nowhere, and everyone's like, where the heck did that come from? That, to me, is what the equivalent will be of Willie Adames when he signs, because he is a very underrated player that kind of gets hidden throughout the playing in Middle America. Tremendous ball player. Jazz Chisholm moves center, Judge moves back to right. They Passan highlighted you could sign Christian Walker or Pete Alonso to play first base. I think Walker fits the Yankee model a little more, but that's one guy that you could fit there. It's like you did right in the rundown that it's allowed to get done, but Soto for $650 or $700 million, or this move for at most $100 million. At most $100 million. Yeah. Right now they have a lot of positions that are missing. I think they'd have to add a third baseman there too. There's a chance that Adames could play third base. It does feel like they're out of the bidding for Bregman already, just because of the news you've heard on the Bregman signing, of how much he's going to be offered around. It seems that the Yankees are not going to be giving out a $200 million deal to Alex Bregman. No. And it feels like more and more as time goes on, he's going to get that kind of deal. So there is that to worry about. But overall, the what if question that we have is, what if they don't sign Juan Soto and go with this move? And basically round out your roster and sign a lot of guys. I keep saying this. I do believe, Juan Soto's a generational talent, unbelievable player. I think at the end of the day could potentially be a top 10 player in the history of baseball. You don't give up on signing a guy like that. You don't move on. You don't move on from signing a guy like that You do everything imaginable to keep a guy like that. On the flip side, we can also say the Yankees might potentially be able to make themselves a better all-around team if they don't get Juan Soto. Like, could not getting Juan Soto potentially be a blessing in disguise for them in a weird sense? And I think Juan Soto is a great player, and this is in no means saying that I don't want them to sign Juan Soto. I want them to do everything imaginable to keep him. My point is, if they don't,
right,
Juan Soto, although he's amazing and potentially a top 10 player in the history of baseball, and I think at the end of the day he will be, he's one player. He's one player, and it's that same, we've seen it across New York football over the last 2 weeks. You can win with one guy, and you can certainly lose with one guy. Not signing Juan Soto, I think, allows them to bolster up the rest of the roster times 1,000. It allows them to make the rest of the roster a lot better. Not a little better, a lot better. And they have multiple positions missing, and I think me and you both kind of agree. If they sign Juan Soto, it'll be great. I don't anticipate there being a lot of secondary and tertiary moves if they don't get Juan Soto. If they get Juan Soto. Right. I don't think there's going to be a lot of supplemental moves to make the rest of this roster better. Whereas if they don't re-sign Juan Soto, I think there's potential for a lot of moves to be made that potentially make them a better team overall. So I'm going to sit here and say, and this might sound bold, but I would love for them to sign Juan Soto, and I want Juan Soto back. And I think it's the right move to get him back. However, the 2025 New York Yankees, I think they're a better team if they don't sign Juan Soto.
Interesting. I mean, if they make all those moves, yes. But if they don't make all those moves, you know what I mean? Like, they could not get Juan Soto and then still not make all these moves and do something else that doesn't make the team.
To me, if Hal is going into this offseason with this plan of he wants Soto at all costs and then doesn't get Juan Soto, to me, that means he's almost admitting before going after all these other free agents that he's going to be spending the money, that he has to go out there and spend that money. I can't imagine a scenario where he's planning on spending $700 million potentially for one player, and then they don't get that player. They're saying they're apparently, from what I've heard out of the negotiation from the original financial offers, any team that didn't come in ranging from $45 to $50 million per year has basically been told, don't even bother, go home. And that's the 5 teams left. Apparently their offer is right in that range. So to me, if Hal is willing to spend $50 million, and really if the original offer is Stacey is 45 to 50, that in reality means the actual offer dollar amount that Hal plans on spending per year on Juan Soto is definitely more than that. This is the original offer. So he knows other teams are going to come in with higher offers, and he's going to eventually have to go higher. So potentially, Hal Steinbrenner probably knows his end offer for Juan Soto that he's planning on making is $55 million per year for one player. That's maybe 3 of these guys that are free agents.
Yeah.
I think overall they become a much, and to me, if you're planning on spending that money at all costs, and there's other good free agents out there, I don't know how, if you don't get Juan Soto, you sit there and say, oh, well, more money in my pocket. To me, he has to go reinvest that money. And he will.
Yeah, no, I know, but I don't know if all of these guys are going to be, if he's going to be able to get all of those.
You'd think they'd have to go aggressively after them. Maybe they'll have to overpay.
Right.
But if they, my question to you is, if they make these moves, it's either make all these moves or sign Juan Soto. It's A or B. You're not going to have your cake and eat it too. So if it A, they make all of these, they don't get Juan Soto, but they make all of these secondary moves, like moving Jazz to a position he feels more comfortable at, signing Willie Adames, or maybe having Willie Adames play. I'd add Bellinger in this. I'd have Willie Adames play third base, trade for Bellinger, and move Judge over to right, put Jazz in second, and put Bellinger in center field. And then you can find a first baseman anywhere else. I mean, that, or sign Christian Walker, whatever the move is. Are they a better team landing 2 or 3 of these top tier free agents and not getting Juan Soto, or signing Juan Soto? Because I think you're in the same lockstep as me. If they get Juan Soto, I would not anticipate there being a lot of other moves after that.
But they have to. What are they going to do? They have open positions.
I think honestly, I think it's going to be stopgap players.
I don't know,
genuinely
because
believe that.
they told Juan Soto that they're gonna make sure that they make the team better.
Yeah.
How are they gonna do that with stopgap guys? I mean,
Do you believe that though?
if you're gonna go for it and you're gonna get Juan Soto and you know what he could do for the team, they made it to the World Series. They got embarrassed in the World Series. You're not gonna come out firing on all cylinders, get Juan Soto, and actually bulk up the team a little bit more than just Juan Soto.
I do hear what you're saying, and I do think there is a point to what you're saying of it's almost not fair to the rest of the roster to bring back Juan Soto and just fill the rest of it with AAA players.
Like
It's
Caleb Durbin, that's your
yeah,
second baseman. Okay, cool. And then Ben Rice is first base. No offense to Ben Rice, but that's what they're going to do. No, they're going to
no,
bring other people in when they sign Soto. They'll find a way. They'll find a way. But
I'd like
do
to
I
believe
think the
it.
team? But do I think the team would be better if they could sign all those other guys? It depends on what their production ends up being, because
I mean, Cody Bellinger is going to be 30. So you'd like to assume he's going to give you at minimum 280 with 25 homers and 80 RBIs at a down year, right? And he's a Gold Glove center fielder. You know you're going to get the production you get out of. I mean, this is all barring injury, of course.
of
But
course,
but say you bring Bellinger over and he's on 25 million next year, which for the production that he's able to provide you, especially at lefty bat in Yankee Stadium, you got to always bring that point up. 25 million is very affordable. If you can shop on the somehow this guy has become a bargain bin player, which I don't understand, but this is the way it's been. If you could somehow wind up bringing in Shane Bieber for 17 million, all right, that right there is still not what Juan Soto's going to get in a 1-year deal. Those two players. And then what would Willie Adames realistically cost? 22, 24 million, something like that per year. That right there, those three players are equaling what Juan Soto's going to cost. And then if you're planning on making moves on top of Juan Soto, then heck, go all out, right? Go bring in Christian Walker. He's only going to cost like $20, $21 million, $22 million. And maybe there is a tax. Maybe if they don't get Juan Soto, these other guys' agents know, they didn't get Juan Soto. They need to make moves. They're going to raise the price up for the Yankees. But you know what? You're the New York Yankees. You can afford that. The Yankees, because these revenue numbers were released, I think it's actually a bad thing for Hal that these revenue numbers came out, and I'll tell you why. These numbers coming out show what the Yankees can do revenue-wise. And I think everybody knows the Yankees print money, and I think everybody knows that they're rich, but it's different when you put an actual number figure on it, right? Everyone knows the Yankees are super wealthy, and everyone knows the Yankees have a ton of money and everything like that. But when you put an actual dollar amount of what Hal Steinbrenner profits in a single season, and then he doesn't have the excuse of going out there and not reinvesting that money. Wait till you see next segment, we talk about the playoff shares, or in the third segment, the playoff shares of what these guys physically got paid just to make the World Series. And that's based on TV revenue shares that they got in for making the World Series. Wait till you see those numbers and then try in your heart of hearts to think about how much money Hal Steinbrenner profited from the Yankees going to the World Series. It kind of gives him a little less wiggle room if he wants to go out there and talk about price, not price gouging, but the prices that he's comfortable spending on players when we sit here and talk about how much money he profited.
right. Speaking of money, the Rays have a big decision to make, and they have to make it by December 1st with regards to their stadium. So we're going to talk about that in a moment. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on our videos, hit the notification so you know when our videos go up. You can also join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club. The link is in the description. You'll get text from us. You can text us questions, comments, reactions to trades and signings during the season. We'll send out the lineups just to get reactions from people because that's always fun. Roster moves, breaking news, and we do all this so you don't have to check social media. There's a 14-day free trial. So again, coming up next, the Tampa Bay Rays have a very big decision to make by December 1st.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more all on the same page where you place your bets. The college football rankings are out. The committee has decided. You guys can bet on that. Who's going to make the playoff? Who's not going to make the playoff? We're going to, for the first time, have teams playing home games in their home city in playoff games. What's better than that? You can bet all of it on FanDuel.com. That's where you have to visit to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets. That's all yours if you win your first $5 bet. That's nothing, guys. That's all available on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel. It's the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks again for making Locked On Yankees your first listen. And remember that every Friday is Fan Mail Friday. You can leave questions underneath the pinned comment on our videos Monday through Thursday, or you can join the Locked On Yankees Insiders Club to get top priority during Fan Mail Friday. The link is in the description. So, Stacey, we get into an interesting topic because more news comes out, and you saw the hurricane damage with the Trop, and that really doesn't change much because you knew the Rays were due for a new stadium regardless. So I don't know if the Trop being damaged really killed momentum here, and in fact, of the Rays getting a new stadium. But it looks like at this point, the city of Tampa Bay has zero desire to give them a new stadium, to give them funding for it. And as we know, the Rays have generally zero desire to spend any money on free agents per year. So if they're not going to spend money on free agents, there is a very high pot. They won't spend $120 million on a prized free agent. There is no way they are going to spend $1 billion of their own money on building a new stadium. That will not happen. So, Stacey, I sit here and ask you, what is going to happen with this team? They're going to have to move, right?
I think so. I really think so. And where? Like, where are they going to go? I don't know.
So if you're Major League Baseball, you have to keep them geographically in the same area.
You would
right?
think.
I mean, they have to be somewhat in the same area.
At least close, or at least in the East, right? Because, I mean, not being in Florida doesn't really matter. Because they have to, or if they are in Florida, they have to be in a place that's a dome because of
the rain,
the weather issues. You know, we're already seeing that the Rays and other teams are making schedule trades, and they're trading series where they're going from playing in Steinbrenner Field in July and August to moving those series up to May and April, which isn't the rainy season in Florida because July and August are. So they're already doing that with this. And, you know, it's just crazy to me that right now we're going to have, or in 2025, we're going to have 2 AL teams playing in minor league stadiums for a few years at least. And with the Rays, we don't know what's going on with them or where they're going.
I believe I saw 65 now of the Rays' final, 90 games are going to be played on the road because that's hurricane season in Tampa, and they don't want to deal with the rain delays. Better part for Major League Baseball to do that, because why deal with the potential of games getting delayed when those games could mean something for the other team? Like, if the Rays are out of it, whatever, but you can't afford teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers missing games due to rain and not having those games on their schedule because they're playing the Rays in Tampa and games are getting delayed. So there is that aspect to it.
Right.
I don't think, it is a weird argument when we talk about the Rays, right? Because you talk about, are they going to stay in Tampa? They struggle to draw crowds. And that is true. They do struggle to draw crowds. And I've been to 2 games at the Trop now, and there are never, both games that I've been to, no crowd at all. I mean, empty. And I saw the Yankees playing there. Empty. I will say this. The Rays consistently every year have some of the top local TV ratings of any team in Major League Baseball. So people do care about the Rays down there. They may not go to the games. I do think people credit it to it's an older population down there. A lot of expat New Yorkers that have moved down there. So what you do wind up having is a lot of people who, older people who love baseball and love to watch baseball, but really don't have the motivation to get up, go out, spend the night out, go to the stadium. They'd rather just sit on their couch.
But it's not only just going out to the stadium. It's spending 45 minutes getting to the stadium and getting back from the stadium, because there's one bridge that goes from one part of Tampa Bay to St. Petersburg, and it's a pain in the butt to get to the Trop. And if you don't want to be stuck in that traffic going to and from the place. So I understand that, because it's not like they have public transportation like with nearly every other ballpark that's built in a place where you can get to it.
You don't have an atmosphere around the stadium. There's no bars, restaurants, hangouts.
Which is why they wanted to do the new stadium in Tampa, because there's more of that stuff around there than in St. Petersburg. No offense to St. Petersburg, but I do understand why they wanted to try and make it so they could put a place close to where the Lightning plays and that area, because that's really like there's
Vibrant.
a lot of stuff to do there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you really are in a stuck spot, and if the city of Tampa Bay is not going to help them pay for a stadium, again, this is a team that won't pay to keep their own players. This is a team that won't pay to hold up the infrastructure at the Trop right now at all. They don't want to do anything when it comes to that kind of stuff. So you're asking them to spend, they won't spend $100 million in an off season. If you're asking them to spend, they won't spend $60 million in a regular season with their payroll. If you think they're going to spend $1 billion on a new stadium without public funding, you're out of your mind. So your next option is to find a city that is going to be willing to shell out a lot of money to bring baseball to that city. And I think there's two options on the East Coast, because you really can't add a team to the West. The only major city in the West Coast that wants a baseball team right now is Las Vegas, and they're getting one in the A's. I think there's potential for Portland. It's very close to Seattle, but I think there's potential that they would want a team, but that's a far distance from now. Two cities come to mind, and I think they come to everybody's mind. One of them is the obvious Montreal. I think there's a lot of motivation for Montreal. They'd fit perfectly in the AL East. I think a lot of people want them to get a team back, and there's a lot of motivation in the city of Montreal to get a team. A lot of fans want a team back there, and it's funny too because baseball didn't really struggle for the most part in Montreal, from what I know, from all the reading that I've done. It really didn't. It was just the fact that the team was never good, and they wound up being good the final year that they were there. It's a very weird dynamic that wound up happening in baseball. And probably if there's no strike, then it's Yankees. It's most likely Yankees Expos in that World Series. Then who knows what happens to the future of Montreal? They could still be a team there today. The other city that hits me that I think would be a perfect fit is Nashville. Nashville's one of the more up-and-coming cities in America right now. A lot of people are moving there. Sports works really well there. The Predators always are full. The Titans are building a new stadium downtown.
That's probably why they're not in the running anymore, because of all the money that's going for that.
The Titans.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to. And I'd agree with that. And I've seen reports on that too, that Nashville's kind of like the city itself is out. They'll welcome a team gladly if it's a billionaire willing to spend all the money out of his own pocket. They're not going to help them spend money. So right now,
and that's a bad fit, because if the Rays don't want to pay for players, they're not going to pay, like you said. I think the new stadium that they're wanting to build is $1.3 billion, which is a lot of money for those guys.
Yeah, it's the going rate of what stadiums cost if you look around.
Oh yeah,
and we are not really anymore, and we're not really in this rhythm anymore, Stacey, of teams, of cities helping teams build stadiums anymore. That era is kind of gone. If you look at, it's across all of sports, arenas, NBA and the NHL. If you look through what the NFL is doing right now, if you look through the new stadiums that are being built, even in baseball, a large majority of it is solo owners that are choosing to build their own stadiums, because then you get to collect the funding of concerts and everything else that goes with the stadium and the revenue and stuff. You're not splitting it with the city. Really, the last major stadium, believe it or not, that has been built that received public funding. Do you know what city it is and what stadium it is?
No.
It's the Yankees and Mets.
Oh,
They're
right.
the last major stadiums that received a large amount of public funding to help be built. Everything since then had been built by public ownership dollar. Heck, the Raiders owner, Mark Davis, was only worth about $2 billion, and he built $1 billion stadium on his own in Vegas. The city of Vegas just gave him the land and said, here, if you want to build it, here it is. It's all yours. You're not going to pay for it. And he spent the $1.5 billion to build that building, which is a large percentage of his net worth. So my point to the whole thing is, you're going to have to build. A lot of owners nowadays are building stadiums on their own. And if you're not going to be willing to do that, either sell the team, because I'm sure someone would want to buy it because it's still a major league franchise, or go to a city that's so desperate to get a professional sports team back that they're going to help publicly fund it. And I think the only option right now is Montreal. I can't think of another city in the US or Canada that is so desperate to get a baseball team where they're going to shell out public funding. It seems like Montreal is the only viable option at this point.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. It's interesting though, the whole fighting for everything. It's kind of
sad. It's kind of sad in a sense, because we've seen for years there's been a World Series appearance in, what was it, 2020. They've really over the last decade been one of the more consistent teams in all of baseball.
Yeah.
Right? They seem to be the ones that are at the forefront of analytics. Now, they've taken a step or two back over the last few years, but for the most part, they're always competitive. They're always a thorn in your side playing them. And
yeah, they're
for
not the
whatever
devil.
reason,
They're not the Devil Rays anymore. They're
no.
more formidable now, and it's kind of a shame that they had all that momentum and they had all that good stuff happening, and then it just this on top of it doesn't really help. Who wants to
No.
play for the Rays? Also,
Think about it that way. Like, what free agents are they signing?
yeah.
Who's going there? Like, who's going there? Who's going to play there?
Like,
And
it
I
always
do
seems
think they
like
have
it's
a market
always
for
they're
it.
always acquiring people through trades. They're bringing people, they bring guys up from their farm system. They get guys through trades. But you don't see someone clamoring to go to Tampa Bay because they're not shelling out money for the guys. They don't play in front of big crowds. They play in a place that's, I mean, it's fine that it's covered with a roof, but it's not really. Is it that appealing to play in Tropicana Field? I mean, I can't
Not at
imagine
all.
that it is, right?
I'm sure the
So,
facilities aren't up to date. But
yeah,
you know what's
and
funny is if they had a grand giant palace of a stadium to play in, I mean, convince me that you wouldn't be able to acquire free agents easily. Who wouldn't want to play there? I mean, if they actually paid free agents, I mean, think about the amount of guys who moved down there after their career's over. The amount of players who have houses there normally and live there in the off season. And it's full of, whether it's Miami or, 3 hours away in St. Petersburg, there's guys, I mean, there is Derek Jeter's property down there is literally called St. Jetersburg. It's so big. Like, he's lived down there his whole life. So players do live down there. Celebrities do live down there. It's a desirable place to live. So it's not like going after free agents and convincing guys to go play there would be that hard to do anyway. I really don't think it would be. It's just, if you're not going to shell out the money and you're not going to have the amenities for these modern day players to play, they're not going to want to play there. And you can't say that. I mean, look at the other sport there. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have no problem finding guys, but heck, Tom Brady moved in down there and played down there. I mean, and they had no problem signing free agents to go down there. That was a chance to win, but they had no problem signing guys. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been a consistent winner. They have no problem signing guys. So it shouldn't be a problem for guys to go sign with the Tampa Bay Rays. But like you said, you don't want to give these guys the amenities and a new stadium and all that kind of stuff. Why would they go there?
yeah. Coming up next, we're going to talk about teams who spend money and win when we talk about World Series shares and playoff shares, because a lot of money was given out.
Oh, yeah.
So this is quite a number. The Major League Baseball postseason player pool was a record $129.1 million.
Pretty nuts.
That's a lot of money. And the Dodgers' full share. So if you get a full share for being in the playoffs, $477,441.
Now, just to reiterate how it works, this pool of money is given to the team that went to the World Series and the runner-up, basically the winner of each league. And based on your position in the organization, you are given a full share, a percentage of a share, a half share, a quarter share, whatever it is. From what I understand, a lot of people are given a full share.
Yeah.
It's not players. It's players,
yeah.
managers, training staff, PR people that work. It's basically a large percentage of people that work within the organization. So do not think this $477,000 may be a lot of money going, may not be a lot of money to Freddie Freeman or to Mookie Betts or to those guys that have massive contracts, but it is a lot of money to the head groundskeeper that can now, buy a new house or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the postseason shares, this is how they were distributed. 36% went to the World Series winner, the Dodgers. 24% went to the World Series loser, the Yankees. 12% each to the LCS losers. So the Mets and the Guardians got 12% each. 3.25% each to the division series losers. So the Padres, Phillies, Royals, Tigers. And then 0.75% each to the wild card losers, the Brewers, the Braves, the Astros, and the Orioles. So that's part of that $129.1 million.
So I guess if you're out of the playoffs early, you're probably rooting for Yankees Dodgers, right? Because it puts more eyeballs on the games.
Yeah.
So then your share is going to go up.
Yeah.
Regardless, like we said, this money probably doesn't mean a lot to guys that have, Aaron Judge is not, so grateful for the I think the Yankees share was something like $315,000 something. It's not a huge amount of money to Aaron Judge, who's making $40 million a year. But again, for the person the person who runs PR for the Yankees, who's making, I don't know, $300,000 a year and now doubled their salary for last year, it means a ton. I know every Yankee employee got a percentage, got a portion of money. So, if the full share is $300,000, even if you got an eighth of a share, you're still getting a crazy amount of money compared to your normal salary. So, it is wild the amount of money. Every time I hear baseball's failing and no one likes baseball and it's a dying sport and everything about it, you look at this kind of stuff and you're like, well, how true is that kind of information? Because this is the playoff share of what these guys got. It's insane to think about how much money these guys are making.
Yes. And it's interesting to see how that's broken down by round and by the losers and the winners get this and that. But yeah, it's a lot of money.
Could you imagine the feeling though, if you're a groundskeeper who makes, I don't know, $100,000 a year, and then you're getting this?
Yeah.
Even if it's a third of it, you're doubling your. I mean, Michael Kay was telling a story earlier on his show that in the 96, like in the playoff runs in the 90s, there were people that worked for the Yankees that were buying homes that couldn't afford to buy a home because of it.
Oh yeah, because
they were buying things because they were going every year. You could almost there were guys that worked for the organization that were making purchases prior to the Yankees actually making it, like knowing the Yankees were going to the World Series anyway. So I'm gonna get this money coming in anyway. Might as well go on vacation now. So
that must have been fun.
Yeah.
That must have been fun to be like, oh yeah, they're gonna make it again.
Right. Yeah, like 98, they were just, we'll go to Hawaii in August this year because, we'll get the money paid back to us.
We'll be able to pay it back in October.
Yeah. It's incredible. Even regardless, imagine working for one of these teams that makes the playoffs every year. That you basically like the Yankees or the Phillies that is going to make the playoffs every year. There's some bonus coming to you every single year. It really is tremendous. But this is the same point that we make, Stacey, all the time. Like, when people want to talk about how much of a dying sport it is and it's falling apart and yada, yada, this and that, just look at these numbers. This what is the number? $129.1 million. Yeah. That is the money Major League Baseball revenue made in a month. In a singular month because of the postseason. And I'm sure Yankees Dodgers helps with that a lot. But that's a crazy amount of money to profit in a month of baseball.
Well, here. This is from the article, having the Dodgers, who averaged 53,116 attendance for their 6 postseason home games that went toward the pool, and the Yankees averaging 48,311 in their home games, make it all the way to the end, plus the exorbitant prices in the highly demanded Dodgers-Yankees World Series, helped enhance the total players pool, which is up 19.8% from last year's previous record pool of 107.8 million. So it went from 107.8 million last year to 129.1 this year.
$22 million the Yankees and Dodgers advanced just because it was the two of them playing.
Yeah.
And I think we figured that, but that is still a crazy number.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of money. $22 million is a lot of money.
It's almost the Rays payroll.
Interesting. The Rangers last year had a full share value of $506,263, but gave out 64 full shares as part of their $38.8 million pool. Mm-hmm. The Dodgers this year had a pool of $46.74 million and handed out 79 full shares at the $477,444 each, and 17.9. What does that say? 17.9 partial shares? I don't know what that means, but plus miscellaneous cash awards that totaled 405,000. So that's a lot.
Yeah, it's got to be great to work for one of these organizations because it also gives you rooting interest. Like it's not Freddie Freeman hitting that home run off of Nestor Cortez didn't just make Freddie Freeman a ton more money. It made so many guys that work in that stadium, ushers, that get paid extra money.
And ladies.
But you know what I mean? I mean, by guys, I mean people. But so many people that got paid an exorbitant amount of more money. Like that home run means so much to those people, not just to Freddie Freeman and the Dodgers, but to all the people that work with that organization, so they can all collectively thank Aaron Boone.
Yeah, but then again, even the Yankees, still got anyone working for the Yankees still got a nice chunk of change as well. So
Yeah, but not as much as they could have. So some of those employees' children's going to have worse Christmases because of Aaron Boone.
yeah. They're not going to go. They're not going to Disney World this year. Oh no.
Yeah. They got to go to Universal instead.
Because you do need a World Series share to go to Disney World because it's so expensive.
Could have just put in Tim Hill.
I mean,
you were a Tim Hill appearance to those kids that are listening, the 10-year-olds whose dad works for the Yankees. You were a Tim Hill appearance away from going to Disney World. But Aaron Boone didn't want that.
No,
think about that.
Aaron Boone didn't want it at all. So blame Aaron Boone. He's the Grinch this year. He's the Grinch. So thank you for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings you a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every rumor and story throughout the offseason. You can find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. So that'll do it for this edition of Locked On Yankees. I'm Stacey Gotsoulias.
And I'm Brian McKeon. We'll catch you tomorrow.